Good. Excuse me. Excuse me. We are live. Yes, we are. We are live, and it's a beautiful day here in Florida. I have to tell you. Um, I think it's going to get into the early 80s, 82, 83, something like that today. Sounds. I know that lots of you don't like heat. It sounds like, oh, couldn't live in that. But we've got breezes. And then we've got more breezes. Then we've got even more breezes still. I'm fortunate because I live on a lake, and it's a small lake, but nevertheless we get breezes. And I only live a mile from the beach as the crow flies, so we get sea breezes. So we get all these lovely breezes, and it's just fabulous. There's only one problem: I can't open my doors because the pool cage is wrecked, and so all the insects and the I don't want those in. So, but still, it's still a beautiful day. Today is October the 29th, and we are getting in stories like you wouldn't believe. I'm so excited for all of you who sent in stories to us. But I'm getting ahead of myself, aren't I? So first of all, before we go any further, first of all, I'd like to say good morning to Great Eagle as usual. He is right by my side. Yippee! Yay! Anyway, and then of course, I'd like to say good morning to Chris. Where are you, Chris?
Morning, Rosemary. I'm in Wichita, Kansas.
Kansas. Oh, Kansas. Did you? I just want to know if you saw The Witch. I know Dorothy makes it, but did you see The Witch?
No, not yet, but there's still the rest of the day to think about.
All those, what do you call them? Kansasites, Kansasonians, Kansas. What do you call those people? Anyway,
I have no idea.
I'm sure all of those lovely people in Kansas hate those ridiculous jokes about Dorothy and the witch and Toto and all of that. It's one of my favorite movies. Anyway, when I was a little girl, my three sisters and I, my eldest sister, I'm going to say she might have been 10, which makes me 6, and my youngest sister 5. So my mother didn't take us, but uh, for some reason or another, she wanted us to go and see The Wizard of Oz. And this was when, oh golly, this was not long after it came out. Well, a few years, not that old, but it was, and it was a Technicolor, and I remember the four of us as sisters. We all went and we sat in this movie theater, which was in a small area, quite away from where we lived. So we had to walk all the way there, and we had to walk all the way back. But if any of you haven't, how could you not see The Wizard of Oz? But if you haven't seen The Wizard of Oz, those of you who have will know. It starts off, it's all in black and white. And then in those days, in the olden days, I'm stroking my beard now, in the olden days, so many movies were still black and white. And the movie starts off in black and white, and the whole thing goes forward a little bit until Dorothy gets whisked away and she sees the witch and so on and so forth. And then she arrives in this magical land of munchkins. And as she arrives, it's still black and white, and then all of a sudden, the whole thing, she opens the door to step out into this beautiful garden, everything turns technicolor, and it's spectacular. It's not so spectacular for us nowadays because everything's in colour nowadays. But can you imagine you're a little girl? I was 5, 6, maybe 7, maybe 6, 7 years old, something like that. Can you imagine the wonder and the magic of never ever seeing anything in Technicolor, and then the screen, this huge screen in this little movie theatre we were in, turns absolutely brilliant, brilliant colours, and I was spellbound from then on. Now, I'm talking about this, and it reminds me actually, and geez, I have a story to tell you. I know you see it's story time. I have a story to tell you, but here's the thing. Um, when I talk about this, and I'm talking about how you sort of come from this world of black and white, or this world of grey, and then you enter into this world of spectacular colour. It reminds me very much of when you step out from the tunnel into that other world. Your vision is clearer, everything is brighter, the colours are more spectacular than you could ever imagine. The reds are more vibrant, the oranges are like flame, the blues are everything in the spirit world. Everything as you step through the tunnel and you step out and into this world, the fields are greener than green as you could possibly imagine, and it's almost as if we walk through this world of ours. Isn't it funny how I was going to tell you one thing and now I'm telling you something else, because talking about the Wizard of Oz actually has triggered this right now. So it's it sort of tells you and helps you to see that at this world of ours, I mean, of course, it's technicolor, isn't it? That you see color all the time. Look, I've got a nice color on me today, but when you step into that other world, when you see and experience that other world, whether you call it heaven or whether you call it nirvana or whatever it is you call that other world, when you take away the, let's say, the shackles or the heaviness of the physical self, your eyes are still seeing, but it's almost as if when we were in on this earth, it's as if we're, the best way I can describe it is sort of perhaps if we had cataracts, uh, we can see, but we can't see quite as clearly. We can hear, but not so much. We can sense, we can feel, but it's almost as if we suddenly realize when we move into that other realm, we suddenly realize that how we've been living on this earth and the way that our senses connect on this earth and the colors that we see and all the rest of it, the colors and the senses and the sensitivity that we have, it's almost as if it is enhanced a thousandfold. And it can be quite, let's say, startling. To one minute you think you can see and you think you're seeing everything in this, as we do in this ordinary sense of things, and then all of a sudden we're seeing uh, deeper, stronger, more vibrant, more aware. Our senses, our sensitivity, it's as if we sort of, something has let go. It's as if we've been living with a shroud over us and we've only been partially seeing, partially hearing, partially sensing. But when I'm talking to you about the movie, and it, sort of when, because I love this movie, and when we come out of that black and white, that grey world, into this technicolor dream, it's very much like coming out of this earth plane and into the spirit world. Now, I think I might be triggering some questions here. You might be wanting to know a little bit more about that, but that isn't what the story is going to be about today. Or maybe it, no, maybe it should be. I don't know. Yeah, maybe I'll shelve the other story for Monday. Yeah, let me think. Let me think. Uh, yes. Anyway, uh, Chris, before before I make my decision, before we go any further, do we have? Is there anybody there?
Yeah, we have a lot of people on, Rosemary, and they're all, with their good mornings. And what I really like to see is in the chat room, they're all saying hello to each other because many of your fans, join here and they recognize each other's names. And
That's nice.
um,
That's so
yeah,
nice.
it's a little family here. Annika's saying, after you had remarked on it being in the 80s in Florida, she said they had frost in Connecticut this morning.
Oh dear.
Um,
Oh dear. Well, I know that some states. I was going to say counties. I'm backing in that some states have snow. So I suppose frost isn't quite as cold as snow, right?
exactly. Rhonda's on saying good morning. Gary saying good morning. Barb saying it's so nice to be with all of you. Um, Leslie says she's looking forward to the next Gray Eagle Speaks.
We're
Judith
all
says,
we're all looking forward to the next Grey Speaks, me included.
absolutely. Judith says the flying monkeys on the movie scared my nephew so badly he still felt uncomfortable with seeing the movie as an adult.
I don't know what that is.
The flying monkeys on The Wizard of Oz?
Oh, of course. Oh, right. Sorry. Yes. Are we still with the Wizard of Oz? I thought I was missing something there. I thought that she might be in Africa or somewhere like that, experiencing the real. Yeah,
Now that would freak me out.
yeah, those flying monkeys were a bit scary, weren't they? Just yes, 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 yes. So
Um,
go ahead.
did you want more?
Yes,
Or
yes.
are you still deciding?
No. So let's see what we've got.
All right. There's a question. I don't know if you're really into questions, Rosemary, at this time, or do you want to wait till later?
Anything at all. Let's see what we've got.
All right. So Valeria says her father Omar is in a hospital trying to recover from a brain stroke, but his health is getting worse and worse, and he feels himself impotent and without hope. What can we do to help him during this time?
Lots of prayers, of course. I think that just being there as a family. Uh, when I'm with people who are in that situation, I'm often called into hospitals and or into people's homes when people have a situation like that. And what I try to do, and especially with the family, not all of the family are agreeing that I should even be there, but what I like to do is I like to take everyone down memory lane. Remember when you did this? Remember when you did that? And I get the family talking often about childhood. If your father's got brothers or sisters who are there, or if you as children remember when he did this or that, and so on. And it gets everybody joining together in that. Do you remember when? And remember when? And the good times. And thinking about the good times and the fun times, because as awful as anybody's life might be, there are always one or two good times, and often more than one or two good times. And sort of taking people getting the family together and going down memory lane, it takes the patient, in this case at your father, it takes the patient away from what is going on with him. He's able to go back and to remember when, and to remember the joyful times that he's experienced in life. Takes him away from that feeling of no hope, and gives him hope, because the past and the wonders that we have of the past um, can really bring us hope and bring us joy. And I think at this moment in time, if you can help him to find the joy in the life that he's had, and encourage him, that everyone around him encourages him that, hey, we remember when, and you are important to us. You need to stay around for us, and give him a reason to fight and a reason to live. But I think, uh, other than that, certainly giving him healing. If you like to go to my look at some of my healing, um, what's it called, Chris? My brain is
The
gone.
CDs?
No, not the CDs. Well, actually, yes, we could send you a pack of CDs. Uh, why not? We can do that if you pay postage and packing. We're giving you them all away this week. That's what we're doing. So if you want them, you can have them. Just let us know. Certainly, we can do that. And listening to they are meditation or healing CD, both really, because meditation is in a form of healing. So, just giving joy and healing. And if you go to look at some of my, um, it'll come. It will come in a
Are we
minute.
talking about the YouTube videos?
Got it. Got you.
Okay.
Too slow, Chris. I've got it. Um, if you go to some of the YouTube things, and you can see how to give healing, and I'll teach you how to give healing. You could do that for your father as well, or you could even take in an iPad or whatever it is you've got, and find it on YouTube and let him listen to it. Let him, show him that way, and see if that's of any help. All right, Chris. Let's see. Anything else before we go into story time?
Well, we can wait till afterwards.
No, just no. Look, hey, let's see. Do you have anything else before I go
Judith
to story time?
Judith commented, she said, your description when you were talking about the monochrome and the color was a beautiful description. After my sister passed over and came to visit me, I was amazed at how clear, bright, and colorful she and her clothing were.
Yeah,
Nothing like here on Earth.
nothing at all like it. Nothing at all like here on Earth. We realize once we have uh, crossed over, or if we, as I have been fortunate enough to travel, we realize this world of ours, which is beautiful and wonderful, and we love it, is, I think the word drab really describes it compared to when we have the blinkers taken off, when we have the cataracts removed, so to speak. It's incredulous. It's absolutely an incredulous and beautiful thing that we see. So, right. So, all right. So, let's get down to it then. It is, yes, good morning. Good morning again. It is story time. And so, as all good stories must begin, and you know that I feel this way, my daughter feels this way, my grandson feels this way, as all good stories must begin once upon a time. Oh, well, first of all, are you all sitting comfortably? Because if you are, then I shall begin. So, once upon a time, many, many years ago, I had been working as a medium for some considerable time. I was still living in England at that time, and I had a lovely client. She was really a sweetheart. And, we all of us have trials and tribulations in our lives. We all of us have struggles of one kind or another. But don't you think sometimes it seems that some people have it worse than other people? Some people really have, it's almost as if they keep being dumped on, and no matter how much they try to get through it, and no matter how they strive to get through it, their life seems to be, very, every time they turn a corner, there's another issue or another problem. And this lovely lady who came to see me when I was talking, of course, with Rachel and with her family, I found out that she had had a life much like that. It seemed that every time she thought she was going to get on her feet, something else would happen. And very often out of her control. I mean, it wasn't anything that she was doing that was wrong necessarily. But she had had a really tough life. She had one son, and she brought him up. Uh, he was the love of her life. He was everything to her, and you would think very often people, when they have a tough life like this, and it seems that can't do anything right, that a lot of bitterness sets in, doesn't it? And a lot of anger sets in. But with this particular lady, there was no bitterness, there was no angst. There was. She just um, accepted her lot, did the very best that she could do, nurtured and loved her son, and just made the very best of. Excuse me, 1 second. I'm just going to ignore that. Actually, excuse me. I'm just going to let it ring. I forgot to switch it off. I'm going to let it ring, so we'll ignore it. So anyway, there she was, and she was, she really had struggled with her life completely. I'm just wondering, Chris, because it's someone we know who knows that is anybody complaining that they can't hear, or they don't, and they can't hear what
No.
so that's just Yes, that's just Karen who forgot then. All right, so sorry about that, everybody, but it is what it is sometimes. Now, so here we are. I'm sitting there with her, and really feeling for her. But she's lovely, and she's kind, and she's gentle, and the way that she responds when we talk about her son is just, you can see she's a fabulous mother. No bitterness, no anger, no angst, just accepting and moving forward the best that she can. But she came to me because one of the things that she really wanted to know from me, and I'm going to say this lady was probably in her late 50s or early 60s. The big question in her mind was, Rosemary, will life ever turn around for me? Will I find happiness? Will I, you know, what about my future? I feel as if, that most of my life is gone, but I'm hoping that, for the rest of my life, maybe you could give me some help. Maybe you should give me some advice. Maybe what can you tell me that I need to do to turn my life around? And as she's saying this to me, Grey Eagle begins to describe the corner that she is going to turn. And he gives her a timeline of, I can't remember exactly, but let's say it was a year to 18 months. And I felt a little bit like a gypsy giving predictions at the end of this consultation, I have to tell you, because, I was saying things like, and this will happen, and that will happen. And of course, you're listening to the story, you want to know what I was saying to her. So it was like, as Greg was talking to me, he was also describing to me what would happen when she turned this next big important corner of her life. And as I watched the description and saw the picture and saw where it was that she was, what her life would be like, and listening to Grey Eagle saying that her life was going to completely turn around, I remember him saying to her, everything as you know it now will change. Everything as you know it. Every tear that you have cried, every pain that you have felt will be worth it, because as you go through your life over the next few months, your life is going to turn and it's going to change so much for the better. And I remember looking to the future for her and seeing this bright, bright sun shining in the sky, blue skies, bright sun. And I remember holding her hands and saying to her, I can't describe to you how beautiful it's going to be for you. Your life is going to turn this incredible and beautiful corner, and you will find your happiness at last. Now, this lady had recorded this session, and I remember thinking after she'd gone, I thought about it a lot. I thought about what I'd seen a lot, and I was thinking, wow, what an incredible thing! What an incredible thing for me to be able to tell her! What an incredible thing! She now has something to look forward to, and as she left my house that day, she held on to me so tightly, smiling, beaming smile. And she said, Rosemary, I can't thank you enough. You've given me so much hope, and I'm so excited now for the future. And it was as if she was walking on air. And off she went. So now we're going to fast forward, right? We're going to fast forward to, let's say, a year to 18 months on, something like that. And out of the blue, I get a phone call. And it's a man on the other end. And he told me who he was, and I didn't know who he was. And he said, well, you gave my mother a consultation about 18 months ago, and I'm so and so, and my mother's name was so and so. And I immediately remembered, because I immediately remembered that incredible and joyful and beautiful sun and the blue sky and everything sort of turning, let's say everything coming up roses, if you like. And he said, when my mother came to see you, um, she told me all about it. And in fact, she let me listen to the recording. And he said, the other day, when I was going through her things, I found the recording again and I listened to it again. And he said, I just want to say, Rosemary, thank you so, so much for giving my mother the hope and the joy that she felt when she left your house. My mother's life did turn a corner, and you are absolutely right. She is so happy now, I'm certain of it. She's so joyful now, I'm certain of it, because she's in paradise. She passed a week ago, and all she could think of was what you had said to her. You are going to turn the corner and you will find true and pure happiness. Now, when I sat with this lady, I had no idea that I was predicting her death. Of course, we don't believe in death and dying, do we? But you know what I mean. I had no idea that I was describing heaven. I had no idea that when I said to her, your life is going to turn a corner, I was listening to Grey Eagle. Grey Eagle was telling me these things and showing me these things. And getting a glimpse of heaven is what I was being given. So I'd no idea that I was predicting that she was going to die, nor would I have ever said that to her. Had Greg said that to me, why would we say that to anyone anyway? But I did from time to time wonder, because what I saw was so incredible and so beautiful. I did wonder, is she going to have that incredible life-changing event that is going to totally change her life and take her into another world, into this next world that we so believe and so look forward to? Not too soon, thank you very much, but you know what I'm saying. And the memory of this lady, the memory of this consultation was triggered for me last Thursday when someone said to me, if I came to see you, Rosemary, would you tell me if I was going to die? Would you be able to tell me if I was going to die? Would you be able to tell me when I'm going to die? And I had to think about it. I had to think, have I ever said to anyone, you're going to die? And I don't actually think, in all of the many, many hundreds of years that I've been doing this, I don't think I've ever actually said that to anyone, that, I've said, oh, here is the date of your death and so on, because I don't believe in death and I don't believe in dying. Let's go a little further. I don't think I've ever actually told anyone the day or the time of their transition from this world to the next. But this, as clear as clear can be, but only after the event, only after I'd said it, because even as I was saying it to her, there was no indication to me that I was talking about her death. There was no indication for me that I was talking about that, okay, you're going to heaven and this is how it's going to be. It was literally, your life will change. Everything as you know it now will change. And when I say that to people, that doesn't always mean, and I have said that to people quite a few times, that doesn't mean that they're going to pop the clogs, as we say in Yorkshire. Uh, it doesn't mean that you're going to die. It means that there are new opportunities, or you're going to meet a new person who's going to bring joy into your life, or it could mean that there's a baby on the way, unexpected and a joyful event. It could mean anything. So when I say to people, your life is going to change and everything as you know it now is going to be as ashes, the phoenix then rises from the ashes. And I've said that to quite a few people, but it doesn't mean that you're going to die necessarily. But in this particular case, when whoever it was on Wednesday, on Thursday morning, asked me if I came and had a consultation with you, Rosemary, would you tell me when I'm going to die? The answer is probably no, but it's amazing. It's quite stunning that what I saw without even knowing, without even realizing, without even understanding, what I saw was a glimpse of heaven. And I know, and this lovely lady's son absolutely knows, her life changed for the better. All of the pain and all of the tears will be as nothing. That's what I said to her, remember. And her son was so humbled and thrilled and joyful for his mother because, having listened to the recording that she made of our session together, he knew he too had a glimpse of heaven. He had a glimpse of where his mother would be. And he said, just called Rosemary to say thank you. The end. All right, Chris. Let's go
Yes.
to the chat room. Let's see what we've got.
All right. I'm going to continue on with some questions that came before you started your story. So people have a chance to write in now after your story. So Shamanth and who else? Iona both have the same question. All of us here on earth miss and long to communicate with our departed loved ones in the spirit world. Do those in the spirit world miss and long to communicate with us as much as we do? And if yes, how come they don't communicate with us then?
Oh, come on. Now, first of all, the answer is not all people on this earth wish to communicate with their loved ones in the spirit world. Let's be clear, but a lot of us do. And it's the same way in the spirit world. A lot of people, the majority of people I speak to anyway, definitely wish to talk to us. Yes, so that's the first. There's two questions you asked me there. So the first one is the answer is yes, they do wish to communicate with us. But when you say how come then they don't, I'm going to come right back at you. How come you don't give them the opportunity to do it? Do you think it's easy? Do you think it's you've got your okay? Here's a scenario for you. I see it every day. You're walking down the street, and people are listening with their iPods to music, or they're playing games on their whatever it is, their devices, or they're watching a movie, or they're engrossed in something else, or they're talking to friends. And whenever do you give them your loved ones in the spirit world? Whenever do you give them your full and undivided attention? Whenever do you give them the opportunity to talk to you? I know you sort of you'll say when you're feeling lonely or you're feeling also you just want to reach out. Is there, are you, anybody there? Are you there? Mum, can you hear me, Mum? And then if you don't get an answer within the first few minutes or so, you move on to something else. It takes time and effort and energy for those in the spirit world to come through to talk to us. It takes us time and effort and energy to listen. So we have to give them the opportunity. Now, a lot of people give their loved ones in the spirit world an opportunity by coming to see someone like me. However, we also, this last Thursday, we had a lovely lady who said she'd been to see a medium who said that she was in touch with her mother and then told us I can't remember what else it was. And just because somebody says I'm a medium doesn't mean that they are, just so you know. So you've got to be really discerning about this. You've got to do your research. You've got to go by, go by. Let's see. If you're buying a new refrigerator or a new television, you go to ratings, don't you? If you're sensible anyway, you go to the ratings. You see what people say about it. When you're looking for a doctor, that's what you do. You look for the ratings. If you're sensible anyway, you look for the ratings. And especially if you're about to undergo surgery, you don't let somebody you don't know or you don't know anything about wield a knife over you. Although I have to say that did happen to me, and I didn't know the guy. It turned out that he was the best anyway. But if you're sane and sensible and you're in a position to question, you're not in a coma or you didn't, whatever. If you're in a position to question, then you do your research and you find the people who have the top ratings, the people who are good at what they do. And unfortunately, that means you pay a little bit more for them than you might for somebody else. But you know, that's the way of it, isn't it? That's the way of life wherever you go. So here's right back at you. When was the last time, my darling, that you truly and honestly gave your loved ones in the spirit world the opportunity on a continual, regular basis so that they could build up their energy, so that you could build up your ability to listen and to be aware? When was the last time you did that? And that's what I say to people. Our loved ones in the spirit world, trust me, they are there standing, right in front of our noses. We're there saying, well, where are you? And why don't you talk to me? And why haven't you come to visit me? Why haven't you given me a sign? And they're saying, right in front of you, why aren't you listening? Why aren't you looking in the right way? So, two-way street. Chris.
Okay, so Iona has an experience she wants to tell you about and get your take on it. Why
Okay.
did me and my daughter see a pentacle star come out of the water, flash in our face, and fly into the sky into the clouds? We're still in awe from the whole thing.
I think it's a fantastic experience if you had it. You do know that we could have used that on Monday night to run our spooky session. But never mind. I think it's a fantastic and a fabulous experience. I can only guess at, maybe a bit more than a guess, that you, at that moment in time, you needed something extraordinary to help you to continue to believe. Maybe you were going through a tough time or something. You needed something special, something extraordinary to give you hope, to give you strength, to give you courage. So I would say, I'm actually listening to Gregor as I'm saying this to you. So that's my take, that's his take on it. I think you just needed it at that time, something extraordinary, so that you could truly understand that there is more to life and death than we can possibly imagine. Chris.
Annika's commenting on your story. She says, "What a moving story. It really touched me."
Yeah. Well, so many years ago, but you know, I immediately, as this lady on Thursday was saying, would you tell me if I'm dying? And I'm thinking, I immediately started to think, have I ever told anyone? And that story immediately came to mind because it was such an incredible and beautiful story for this lovely lady who uh, didn't even have any inkling of the fact that life on this earth was going to give her another curveball, but that it would send her to that fabulous and wonderful new and beautiful experience.
All right, Cheryl says, "My sister did not let on how sick she really was. It was quite a shock for me when I saw her 2 days before she passed. She still had her sense of humor, so I don't know if she thought she was dying."
Well, there are so many worse things than dying. And it may well have been that she knew perfectly well that she was dying, but that she had come to terms with it, or she was looking forward to it, or maybe she'd had some experiences that she perhaps didn't tell you about, and she felt very comfortable with the idea of passing. Death is not a punishment. Let me just remind everyone of this. Death is not a punishment. Death is, not something terrible that happens to us. It's something terrible that happens to our loved ones, to our families. Of course, it is, because no, we don't want to lose our loved ones. But for the one who is experiencing, going through the process of death and dying, it is absolutely not a punishment. It is a joyful and a beautiful experience, as I hope the story this morning has shown you.
All right. And then Mark is on. Mark's saying, "Thank you for sharing this story. My mom's rebirth anniversary is November 20th. She passed 3 years ago. I remember her asking, 'Mark, are you coming home for the holidays?' I said yes and asked her to promise me if she would be the first person to see me before I saw her. She laughed and said yes. She passed that evening. Tears well in my eyes, for she saw me and saw heaven."
How wonderful, Mark. That's fantastic. Thank you for that story.
Then we have Judith. She said, "This story about this woman's great joy brings tears to my eyes. How wonderful for her that you and Gray Eagle gave her such hope and anticipational. So lovely. Her last days in her body were happy." And Judith is reminding us that she is the one who asked you if you would tell her if she would survive her upcoming heart surgery.
Oh, okay. Uh, you didn't ask me if you were going to survive the upcoming heart surgery, Judith. You asked me, would I tell you when you die? And I don't think it's anytime soon. So there you go. Thank you for sort of prodding my memory too. Okay, keep going, Chris.
Ka- Karen says, "Do you think people in some way within their soul have an idea that they might be going to heaven? And if so, can you share?"
Yes, I think that we all, on some level, prior to our passing, we have an inkling. You hear of the people who, for no reason whatsoever, they decide they're going to get all their papers in order. They're going to write their will. They're going to, make sure that everything is in order. So so that it's almost as if they're tidying up and getting stuff out of the way, so they can. So when they leave, they can leave with a ease of mind. Let's say you hear of people. There's a young man. I've told this story before. A young man who came home to visit his family and his friends, and all of he and his friends went out in the car, and at some point it was a beauty spot, and it was something that happened very close to where I used to live, and it was a beautiful beauty spot. And he said to his friends, "Let's pull over here," and they pulled over, and they all piled out, and it sort of was a high place overlooking. Absolutely, it was a spectacular view. And everyone in the area knew this view. It was a spectacular and beautiful view. And he said to his friends, "Wow, what an incredible place. If you were to die, this would be the place, right?" It came out of the blue for no reason whatsoever. And I think it was just a few days later that he was in a car accident in that exact same spot. And he did uh, die in that spot. So, did he know what was going on there? So we do have a sense of what I think when we're about to go. Um, I'm not sure that we have an absolute knowledge that this is what's driving us to change our will or to put our papers in order or something, but we do have a sense of something within our soul, as you put it, that our time is coming to an end. Chris.
Iona says, "Both my grandparents saw their moms before passing. They told me they were coming for them.
Oh, nice.
My papa was supposed to come home, but he told me his mom was coming that night he died. And that night in my grandmother died in front of us saying her mother was in the room."
Nice. Isn't that great? I love those stories. You do realize that these are good stories for our Halloween night on Monday night. Come on, everybody. Come join us on Monday night. We're going to be talking. I want you to share all these stories with us. We're going to be sharing stories, uh, Definitely, we're going to have the lights down low. I will not wear my witch's hat. I don't think so. Anyway, uh, just kidding. But what will I wear? It's Halloween. Um, I don't know. I'll decide probably 5 minutes before we start. But I know that it's going to be late for all of you who are in England and in other countries. 9 p.m. New York time, Eastern Standard Time, in here in the United States. So in England, it will be sort of 2 in the morning. But go to bed early, set your alarm, wake up to join us for the show, and then you can snuggle back down and go back to sleep if you dare, having listened to all the spooky stories that we're going to be telling you. So, anyway, all right, so let's move on, Chris.
Rhonda says, I took your advice and sit quietly and listen for my dad to communicate, and it works.
Of course it does, Rhonda. Of course it does. I say to people, it might take you a day, it might take you a week, it might take you a month, and it might take you a year or two. But if you do it on a regular basis every day, find 10 minutes, that's all you need, 10 minutes in a day to put yourself in a quiet place. You don't ask anything, don't say, is there anybody there? Don't put any pressure on. You sit there and you say, okay, everybody, they know what you mean. Okay, everyone, I'm here for you. If you have time, I'd love for you to visit. If you don't have time, I'll understand. And that's as much as you don't need to say knock 3 times or give me a sign or any of those things, because the more you're talking and asking all of those things, the less focused you are going to be on listening and paying attention to to the fact that maybe somebody is there trying, but you won't shut up and let them do it. So just keep trying. Rhonda, I'm really thank you for that. I'm really pleased for you, Chris.
All right. Nancy says, what is your best suggestion on how we can build the connection in connecting to our loved ones who have passed? How can we help them?
Well, as I've just said, find 10 minutes in a day. That's my best suggestion to you. Of course, then um, you can connect through a medium, which is as long. Please do your research. Um, People think some people, those people who just sort of a little bit grouchy and grumpy might think that I think I'm the best and the greatest medium on this planet and no other medium is as good as me. That's not what I think at all. I think there's some very wonderful and some very fine mediums out there. You search for them, you look for them, but you go by their ratings, check them out, see what other people's experiences have been. Not people who you trust, people who you know. Don't be afraid to be critical. Don't be afraid to question. I mean, I I'm critical and I question all the time. And look at me, I've been doing this all of these years, but I still question and I'm still critical. Of course I am. Why wouldn't I be? So so there are different ways to connect. Sitting quietly is one of the best ways I know for people who either can't afford or don't want to go to somebody like me. And another way that certainly you can see with me is we're going to, we have done it before and we shall be doing it again. We'll have a session. Usually I do 3 hours. It's a 3 hour session. People, well, you do have to pay, not a lot, but you do have to pay something, obviously. And what we try to do is I spend that 3 hours connecting and talking to those in the spirit world. And those of you who are joining me, not everyone gets a message. Well, actually, everybody does get a message, not necessarily directly from somebody who they love and who care about, but if you want to try to connect with your loved ones and you want to do it in that way, it's a great way to do it, and just keep trying to do it, because sooner or later your loved ones in the spirit world will give you messages. Grey Eagle and I sit for 3 hours, maybe a little bit longer. Sometimes it goes over a bit, and and that's all we do. We give messages. We talk to those of you who are joining us, and we give messages to you, and messages from your family and your loved ones. So there's always the different ways for you to connect. Chris.
Barb says, my sister passed several years ago, and while I was talking to her daughter on the phone, my sister came into my mind. She gave me so much to tell her daughter. I
Yeah,
was truly having a full conversation with her, and I was totally amazed.
yes. Isn't that fantastic? You say she came into your mind. What she was doing was impressing herself onto you in the best way that she could so that you could see her and be aware that she was very much there with you. Yes, good for you. I hope you gave the messages to her daughter. Fabulous. Keep going, Chris.
Lorraine says, my dad passed away in 1997. He was very sick with heart and lung cancer. He came to me not long after he passed, and I saw his face before me, all smiling and happy and rosy cheeks. So happy, wonderful feeling. In 1999, my mom passed from a massive heart attack. She was getting ready for her yoga class and had called my office and later was told she sounded upset. Previously, I was much involved at work speaking to my manager, and the coworker said your mom was on the phone and sounded upset. I called her back, and my youngest sister, who was disabled and speech impaired, said, she's dead. I was beside myself. I drove there as fast as I could. She was lying on the floor in the kitchen, and the medics were working on her. So awful. I felt so bad that I didn't pick up the phone. Weeks later, in a dream, the phone was ringing, and I answered, and my mom said, hello, Dolly. She called me that at times. I believe she was giving me a message that it's okay and I'm fine, and I was so relieved to feel her love.
Yes. Oh, how, thank you very, very much for sharing that story with us. It's a wonderful story. And yes, I think your mother was saying to you, don't worry, just because you didn't pick up the phone the first time doesn't mean you won't the second time. And there you did. You picked up the phone, and there she was for you. Please don't worry. We all of us, we want to be there for our loved ones. We want to be perhaps even the last one they speak to. We want to be, we want to be very present, but it's not always possible to be present. And so, you know, it's life. It's called life, and you mustn't ever, ever feel that if only I'd picked up the phone, if only I'd been able to speak, if only I could have done something. That's the natural thing that we feel when these things happen to us. But I'm so, so glad you had that experience with your mother saying to you, don't you worry about it. It's life. And obviously telling you she was okay. Chris.
Kate is asking, is it the same in dreams that it is in the waking hours when you get signs from the other side? I had a dream about an eagle who looked directly into my eyes, then turned around and flew into the sun, and it dissipated in bright, sparkling light.
Nice. Very nice. Wow. How lucky are you? Yes, um, most of our when our loved ones come to us, they come to us in that when is sort of in that half awake, half asleep state. So it could be when we're just going to sleep. It could be, the what is it? The logarithms. We go into a deep sleep and then come out, and in that coming out moment, not quite out, but in that space, or when we're about to go to sleep, or when we're waking up, as we're coming in or out of our sleep state is usually it's the most common time. There are no barriers with us. We're not conscious, so we're not necessarily questioning, or we're not our fear or our nervousness, or when something unusual happens to us it puts us on guard. But in those moments of sort of half awake half asleep, that we're not guarded, and we're allowing things to happen, and we're allowing things to be as they should be. And they are the times mostly when we are able to see, to hear, to sense, to be aware of our loved ones in the spirit world, because we're not putting up the barriers. Remember earlier I said It's not that your loved ones are not there, it's that you don't necessarily see them. They can be standing right in front of you, under your nose, and you're saying, "Why aren't you there for me?" And they're saying, "But I am there for you." And it's the same thing in our halfway calm sleep state. There are no barriers, and we're open and we're ready, and we're in that wonderful space where we can see and we can hear and we can be aware of everything that is going on in that other realm. Chris.
Florrie's asking, but how about the suffering that comes in most cases before the passing? That's the part that's questionable to me.
Well, we are physical beings, and let's face it, every single one of us at some time in our lives, no matter how, you might have smoked for 30 years and now you don't, and you might have eaten the right things and now you eat the wrong things, whatever it is. This is a physical body. It's vulnerable. It's a vulnerable body, and we every one of us, we abuse it. We abuse it every day. I know I do. I mean, let me think. What did I abuse my body with last night? Oh, I had a piece of chocolate before I went to bed. See, if I, and I'm not supposed to eat chocolate, by the way. It's very bad for me. But not bad for everybody. I'm not talking about being too fat. I'm talking about oxalates here. So chocolate is especially bad for me. Anyway, so all of us, we abuse our bodies, and you can't say, well, it's God's fault that we suffer before we die, because often we suffer because our physical being has been affected by the way we live, or the environment we live in, or the air that we breathe, or whatever it is there. We're human beings. And so consequently, we do damage to ourselves on a physical level. I know that I was born with a deformed kidney and tubing and all that stuff. You know, that's you can't blame God for that. It's just we are physical beings. Things happen to us. My daughter was born with a deformed fallopian tube. Not, let's not blame God here. Uh, we are physical beings. Things happen to us. We're born with physical impairments, and sometimes we bring those physical impairments onto us. I can remember a story of a guy who was a smoker, and he smoked, literally chain smoked, and he was in the hospital. And at this point, the point that I'm telling you this story, this is a true story, by the way. He'd had both of his legs amputated because he'd got pockets of nicotine in his legs, and he'd had one arm amputated, and he was now going in to have the other arm amputated. And the doctors, the nurses, whoever, they rigged this thing up on his head, right? It was a metal thing that sat on his head and came down here that held a cigarette, so he could still smoke. Uh, because he did it, he did it to himself. He was very prone to nicotine pockets, and that is a true story. We do stupid things to ourselves, and we don't always realize. I mean, look, I have always, for years and years and years, drunk green tea. I learned when I was in China many, many years ago. All of my friends in England and my friends everywhere would know I would never touch regular tea. I would only drink green tea, which is supposed to be really healthy for you. But you know what? It isn't healthy for me because those leaves contain oxalates. So sometimes we think we're doing the healthy thing, but we're not doing the healthy thing either. People say to me, "Oh, I've got you some really nice berries, and blueberries are so good for you." Well, they might be good for you, but they're not good for me because oxalate. So we are physical beings having a human. We are spiritual beings having a human experience, and in our human experiences, we do things that we sometimes knowingly, sometimes not knowingly. So let's not blame the spirit world if we die and there is pain or there is hurt or there's heartache and so on, and we see suffering. It is of a physical kind, not and often an emotional kind, but not of a spiritual kind. Chris.
All right, last question since we're at time. This is from Kathy. Can you tell me when a person dies and they don't believe in life after death? How do they deal with the fact that they are still alive?
Well, I've had many people. I remember having somebody. Uh, I had two ladies come to see me for consultation, and while they were there, I think it was one's brother or something. Anyway, it was the day of his funeral, and he said, "Look, I went to the funeral, but I prefer to be here." So I mean, and he was saying, and I've heard so many people say, I didn't believe in all of this, but here I am, and I can't wait to let them know that I'm here and still alive, and so on. I mean, of course, it's a shock for some people, but everybody deals with it in a different way, right? It's we all have our own way of dealing with situations. But usually, once they got over the shock, it's a joyful thing. So you know, so that's a good thing to remember. And remember again, as I've just said, we are spiritual beings having human experience. That is Teilhard de Chardin, that's a very famous quote. I like to add to his quote. I hope he doesn't mind. But I always like to add the extra part. We're spiritual beings having a human experience, and hopefully, this is my part in a spiritual way. And that's what we have to remember. So as you go through your weekend, can you be having this wonderful human experience that you're having? Can you have it in a spiritual way? Think about the story that I told today. Think about, being able to see a glimpse of heaven without even knowing that that's the glimpse that you've actually seen. All right. So thank you everyone for joining us. Yes, um, we should be back again on Thursday morning for the Spirit World Sees All, and of course, we know they do. And I'd like to say thank you to Chris for great facilitating. I'd like to say thank you to all of you for joining us today. Your support, I love your support. You're wonderful, wonderful, fabulous. Wait for the newsletter which is going out. If you're saying what newsletter, what is she talking about? Go to YouTube, or go to my website. Never mind YouTube. Go to my website, rosemaryaltea.com. Go to that website. You can subscribe, and if you subscribe, you will automatically get our monthly newsletter. And I always write a little of that, and Chris writes a lot of that. But I always put in my bit, a letter to all of you. So if you want to know more, if you want to keep updated with what we're doing, subscribe. Go to rosemaryaltea.com and subscribe. You have to click a button. It doesn't cost you anything. You all know that, right? Anyway, so until I see you again, oh, will it be Monday? Are you joining me on Spooky Monday? We're so looking forward to Spooky Monday. We have some great stories for you. If you just write into us and say, can I have a set of CDs? I don't have a story, but could I have a set if I pay you for the postage and packing? And you know what we'll say? We'll say, yes, of course you can. Of course you can. We're giving them away like fury this week. So join us on Monday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is 2 p.m. British time. I'm afraid I can't work out the rest of the world. You have to work it out for yourselves. We shall be here. We shall be taking calls. If you would like to join me on camera, you are welcome to. If you have a story to tell, you can tell it either on camera or off camera. That's fine too. So let me see. So until I see you again, whether it's Monday Spooky Night or whether it's Thursday, the Spirit World Sees All. Spirit World Sees All is 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time as usual. Please, everybody out there, have a very, very blessed rest of the week, and have a very blessed weekend, everybody. Bye bye.